Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gooner Pavilion. It is Arsenal 3, Bournemouth 2. And guys, this is one of those wins where you take the points, but you don't let the performance off the hook. Because tonight, Arsenal won where it mattered. We went behind, we had to respond, and we did respond. And we live with 3 points driven by Declan Rice stepping up with two massive, massive goals. More about that in a second. But this wasn't comfortable. It wasn't clean. It was chaotic. It was messy, just like I said in the preview that it would be. But Bournemouth dragged us into the game that they absolutely wanted. And I mentioned something in the preview that was going to be critical in this game. So I'm going to break that down, guys. I hope you are all doing very well. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. But let's do this properly and break this down with the 3 ups and 3 downs. Okay, guys. First up, Declan Rice. Let's start where it needs to start. Declan Rice didn't just score twice, he stabilized the game when it threatened to turn into a full-on away day spiral. Declan Rice was not entirely great in the first half, full disclosure. But the second half is what leaders are about. And in this day and age, this week has been dominated by medical staff, having, collision with the manager, looking at what's happening in Chelsea. I, for one, didn't want Declan Rice in this game because I think that he's more important in the game that's going to happen on Thursday. But it's either Declan Rice is showing that he's just an indestructible machine. He can just keep going. There were elements of that first half that, gave signs that maybe he wasn't exactly at his best. But what he turned around in the second half was surely nothing but remarkable. And that's where he's priceless. That's the £100 million midfielder and he's worth every single penny. He gives you a grown-up presence in that middle. He's calm, he's a leader, he resets the tempo, and then he delivers in the decisive moments. This is what title midfielders do. They decide the outcome, and Declan Rice decided the outcome in this game. Declan Rice was productive at the right end of the pitch. Okay, second up for me, guys, the response after going behind. Listen, that response, it's got to be a second up. Got to be a second up for Arsenal because I believe that this muscle and resilience that Arsenal is building is exactly what they've built over the last couple of years where they've been coming second. It's not something that has just happened overnight. This ability to be calm, going down a goal in the very early minute. Listen, when we went to Bournemouth last time, it was chaotic and we lost. But this time around, we actually stood up to be counted. We considered the first goal and then we didn't spend 30 minutes just kind of arguing with the game. We got ourselves back level and it was just pleasant to see that Gabriel, who made the error that cost Arsenal the goal, was the one that equalized. And that for me, just reminds me of, defenders like Vincent Kompany for Manchester City, who used to do that time and time again. You see Virgil van Dijk when he was in his prime doing that, maybe makes a mistake for a goal, but then goes back and responds. And that attitude and relentlessness, the resilience to be like, I made a mistake, I hold my hands up, but I am going to make amends. I'm going to be the one that actually participates in fixing it. I think this is just something. And listen, if Arsenal can make this to the end, I think this action alone itself just really, really tells you what's happening within the club. In a way, games like this is really, really tricky. And Arsenal responded very, very well. It's not those comfortable 3-0s at home. Smashing Villa was great. It was a revenge game. It's a lot of emotion to it. But this sort of game against Bournemouth is where it counts because you can't win the league being perfect. You win it by being the team that recovers the quickest. And Arsenal showed exactly that. Third up for me, mentality. Listen, last season's pain, this season's points. And Arsenal is a little bit petty like that, right? We're doing a little bit of a tour. And when I break down, and preview the Liverpool game because we're looking forward to that. I'm going to have so much fun, breaking down that game and previewing that game because it's the one that Arsenal fans have been waiting for. So don't forget to check out that preview when it comes. But Bournemouth have made a habit, I mean, just only recently, of turning games against big teams into street fights. They make it very, very difficult. They're counter pressing, they're pressing, their aggressiveness. Man City, when I was previewing this game, I said, well, they couldn't handle that pressing. And all they did was send the ball over, get above the pressing, get it quickly to Haaland. We just couldn't do that. And I just kept saying, if we can just beat this press, I think we're going to be able to have some joy in this game. And yes, we gave them too much life at times, but we didn't leave with regrets. We left with 3 points, and that's what growth really looks like, guys. We could have played better, yes, and we suffered, yes, but we still won, and I think that's what matters. Okay, you know how we do this show? We've got to talk about 3 downs. Things that we can improve. The cheap start, guys. It's got to be the first down. We can't keep offering teams a head start, especially away from home. And that's something that I've kind of noticed. Think about Chelsea, away from home, Sunderland away from home, Aston Villa away from home. We keep allowing teams to go 1 goal up ahead of us. And listen, it's going to bite us if we don't nip it in the bud. I really don't want that, because when I talk about, the context of this game, you understand why. But conceding that first again, and once you give Bournemouth that opening, you're now playing in their preferred environment. When their home crowd gets on top of it and starts to, rev up the players, then they get energy, they press, counter press, chaos, and the crowd starts feeding into that energy. And then the early phase just sets the tone, for what the rest of the match would be. So you can't keep spotting teams, a goal and calling a character every time. So something that Arsenal have got to work on. Down for me, the second one is just control was optional for too long, right? Second down, we didn't control enough of the match. Right? It all became urgent. This game was crying out for Arsenal to slow it down, but fair play to Bournemouth. They didn't give Arsenal any breathing space to do this. They made their presses, they ran out of fuel, and we didn't actually stand up consistently. I was wondering, could Nugget have come in, into this game and stabilized things, but Mikel Arteta just resisted and resisted. And of course, Rice eventually scored, the goal. But too many spells were played, at Bournemouth speed. Too many moments when we turned the ball over and we're immediately defending in transition, and that's exactly where Mikel Arteta doesn't like. He doesn't like that at all, and that's why people always talk about Arsenal's rest defense being one of the best in the league. But it is very dangerous when you concede balls, close to the final third. You really don't give yourself enough time to react. So it's a warning. It's a warning. People might look at that as a blueprint for how to play Arsenal. Certainly, you're going to see that a little bit more when teams are like, hey, what the heck, right? We're just going to go and press them and just see what happens. Doesn't matter if we leave spaces in the back, because they're going to be very reluctant to hit that ball over the top. So, yeah, we didn't control that rhythm, and it just made it easier for them to disrupt. So, and the last one, and listen, I kind of toyed about this one because I don't know whether we were nervous. I don't think we were, but obviously as fans, we're nervous. So maybe this third down is about the fans being nervous rather than the players, right? We want to get that 90 points. And listen, I want to ask the uncomfortable question you're probably thinking. When Gyökeres goes off, guys, do we become easier to play against? And I just wanted to just think about that. And the next time that we play, just watch out. Not because he's the only solution. And, the fact that he hasn't been scoring goals and everyone is criticizing him about that. And maybe there's a fair, it's fair for people to do that. But his profile changes the whole shape of the game. When he pins the center backs, he makes clearances stick. He forces defenders to defend, racing their own goal. And when he's not leading the line, we can't start to feel like we are playing in front of the teams instead of pushing them back. So Gabriel Jesus came into this game, and I just kept thinking, I don't know if he's going to make that much of a difference. I know that we wanted, a killer instinct up front. And yes, Gabriel Jesus might be great at finishing, but it's something that is disrupted when Gyökeres goes. And it's not a coincidence that we consider that second goal after he's left the pitch. And that's happened, a couple of times now. When he leaves the pitch, we concede, goals. So listen, I'm not saying it's his fault or anything like that. I'm just like, I think it's just something that we just got to solve. I just wish that, we would be able to play to his strength. And maybe, listen, the second half of the season has just started, and there might be an opportunity for us to play him into form. A little bit like Havertz, when he first came. But hey, I think, if we win this title, nobody's going to care about Gyökeres' performance. And it's only noise is just going to be louder if we don't. So let's just, go ahead and win that title. And speaking about that, let's just talk about the bigger picture, guys, because I like to do this, frame this in the context of where we're going. We've got a blueprint of how we're going to win this league. And so after every game, we've got to look at where does this fit? What are we doing? Are we on track? Are we not? Now, this game, as we talked about as the graphic goes up, is in the manageable bucket, and it's crucial. And Bournemouth away sits exactly in there. And, Arsenal with 45 points, going into this, and now we're sitting, at 48 points. And we've talked about, a lot of these games being, away games, right, guys? Where we definitely have to do the business, right? So we can put a tick, against Bournemouth away. Remember, this bucket has got Forest away, Leeds away, Brentford away, Brighton away, Wolves away, West Ham away, and then Newcastle at home. This is a bucket that Arsenal has got to manage. And we're on track here. We're on track because, for me, in this bucket, we need a minimum of 7 wins. 7 wins from this bucket. And I think we're going well. We're doing on track. It's now 2, out of the 7 wins that we need. That's 6 points, out of a possible 23 that we're going to need from this group of games. I think we're on track. We're doing very nicely. So this wasn't a small win. This is a win that allows us to stay on track to get that 90 points. And now we're just stacking results. We're stacking results. Because so many of these away days is just going to be similar like this. But Arsenal has just got to go and get the job done against these teams, right? Because we've got to match Man City. I know I say that we're going to win this irrespective of Man City. But, at the end of the day, Man City have confidence because when they play teams and they win them, they're like, maybe that might be a banana skin for Arsenal. But Arsenal is just shutting down, and Bournemouth are a team that we struggled with. It's kind of interesting that this is actually the first time that we are playing them this season. So, but the next time that we play them are at home. So hopefully by then the title would have been, all done. But I mean, that game at home is a game that we should win. No question about that at all. So yes, it was tense. Yes, it was uncomfortable, but Arsenal won. Declan Rice dragged us over the line. My takeaway is simple, guys. You take the 3 points with gratitude, take the performance with seriousness, because this game was just showing 2 truths, at once. Arsenal can suffer and still win, and Arsenal can still have control issues that smart teams will try to copy. So drop your thoughts, guys. Let me know who you thought was the man of the match in this game. What do you think about the performance? Are we just happy with the 3 points? Is there something that other teams will replicate? I think for me, Declan Rice, obviously gets the man of the match, even though I have to say there was a game of 2 halves for him. But if he can play, not so well in the first half and still deliver in the second half, then it just shuts me up. Really shuts me up, shuts all of us up, because he's just a world-class midfielder, and that's what world-class midfielders do. Guys, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Put it in the comments as well. Share this with as many Arsenal fans as possible. 3 ups and 3 downs on the Bournemouth. Look out for our end of year preview that should be going up very, very shortly. So I do encourage all of you to watch that, enjoy that. Let me know what you think. Any feedback will be much appreciated. And we will be looking at the Arsenal-Liverpool game, in the midweek. So I'll be previewing that. But until the next one, happy New Year. We'll see you in the next one.